Mairin Moore Cane is a best-selling author, speaker, and host of the Root, Realign, Rise podcast. She writes and speaks at the intersection of leadership, resilience, and rebuilding after pressure-filled seasons. Known for her grounded, honest approach to leadership, Mairin helps high-capacity women lead with clarity and courage, even when life feels unfinished. Her work centers on the truth that you don't have to be whole to lead, and that rebuilding seasons can become powerful places of authority. Mairin is a prime example of this and a reminder that we don't have to look like what we've been through. Welcome, Mairin. Welcome to She Leads Boldly, the podcast for faith-driven women navigating high-stakes leadership without compromising what matters most. I am Sharika Sanders, your host, mentor, and kingdom business leader. Here, we embrace bold leadership rooted in purpose, not pressure. This space is for the woman who refuses to choose between faith and ambition, family and fulfillment, impact and rest. Each week, you'll hear powerful conversations, practical strategies, and spirit-led wisdom to help you advocate for yourself, lead with integrity, and rise without burnout. If you're ready to lead boldly, live faithfully, and never settle for less than what God has promised, you're in the right place. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and whatever time it may be for wherever you are. I am always excited, and I'm always excited about our guests because please understand that there is definitely a process. It's not like, oh, how about you? How about you? Let's grab you. Like, I want to make sure that you all really have someone speaking to you that can understand where you are and really pour into these various stages. And by God's grace, we have done it again today. And so thank you, Mairin, for joining us. I am excited and intrigued for what we are to speak about.
I'm honored to be here, actually. I think in all of the stories that God's really put me through and all of my purposes, I think one of the biggest blessings is being able to share the story with some really great people and meet some people along the way that, I just really enjoy connecting with. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for saying that too, because sometimes we often forget or we don't put enough value on our story and what we've experienced because we're like, oh, well, they had something even greater happen to them or they had, whatever else to go on with them. And I'll even say, and I'm getting off topic before we even get on topic, but I'll even say, so I have a friend who's currently going through chemo for the second time. The first time she had chemo, it was in 3 different places. So it was considered 3 different cancers, and it was her kidney, her colon, and her liver. And at the time that she was going through it, I was going through radiation from breast cancer. So I was like, well, Lord, put us in this thing together. But she really encouraged me because I was telling her, I was like, I don't really talk about my journey and my healing. And God was in the midst of all of it. Yeah. I was like, because I come and I look at you and what you're going through and still going through, and mine just seems to pale in comparison. So I don't. And she's like, but your story is still your story. You were still able to overcome something and still able to make it through something. Like we were like, well, which is worse, chemo or radiation? Or they're both horrible, by the way. But, and she's like, your story is still your story. And, it was given to you. You were taken through that for a reason and for a purpose. And don't let that go because you're comparing it to somebody else's journey and now taking the value out of, what you were able to overcome. And so your note just made me think about all of that. So thank you for that. And even more, something that I know we can also all relate to is alignment. And something I've said for years, which I'm still trying to work my way out of, stop saying it, because we talk about work-life balance and what is your balance and how do you balance and how do you maintain and all of these different things. But one of the things I've learned fairly recently, and something you said that right on target with that, it's not about balance, but more so alignment
Yeah.
and, being where you're supposed to be and doing whatever it is you're supposed to do at that time, in that season, in that space. And so I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about that alignment and what it means for you.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think in order to do this, long story short, I have to share a little bit of, how I got to where I'm at, which is, 25 years ago, my husband and I started a business out of our little 2-bedroom apartment. I was 21 years old. I was a hustler. I was constantly working. Probably our peak, we were running 3 businesses in 35 states, and we were winning awards for service and recognition of growth and all of the things. And, if you look at it from a hustle culture, we were doing it. Like we were successful, and I was so proud of who I thought that I was, who I thought my purpose was, which was really to lead these people and to service communities in the way that we were with our business. And then actually a little bit before, I started to notice some things with my health, but it really wasn't until 2020 that, I think everybody automatically anyway with COVID, everything went to gridlock. And I'm going from, working literally what was probably 18 hours a day and loving what I thought my life was to complete halt, gridlock. And my body, all of a sudden, which was already showing signs and symptoms of like, we're not so sure we like this. All of a sudden it hit gridlock, and I was so sick. I went from running 9 miles a day to 90 pounds, vomiting all day, every day. I'm needing feeding tubes. I was having organ failures, and my heart rate and my blood pressure were so high that there was risks many a times. And still to this day, I fight with things because it's my nervous system issues that I'm having. But I was fighting with stroke and heart attacks. I had a small mini stroke. So there was quite a bit going on in my life, mental wise, health wise, all of the above. And it really has to re-identify with who you are at that point. Like, what are you doing on this earth? Why are you here? Because if everything I thought was who I was, to have that be wiped clean and to think, this is my life now, I will probably never go back to being the same person again. You really start to think about where that purpose is and all that pain. And, there were many a times I would call my mom and I would be in tears and begging of, this is not how I expected my life to turn out. I'm, 40, I think at the time I was 43, 44 years old. I'm 47 now. But, what do you do with your life when you're in bed all day? I was bedbound for 3.5 years, going from a hustle culture to absolutely nothing. And I'll be frank, at first, I was very mad at God, very mad. And I didn't understand it. And finally, I just kind of gave up in 2023. And I said, all right, God, you got my attention. Let's talk about this, because clearly you've been saying something and I have been ignoring you. And what else do you do? And one of the biggest lessons I got in all of this, and even through my mom's phone calls, is where the purpose in this pain is for me to I needed to slow down and be more aligned with what maybe I wasn't meant to do. I thought maybe I was, and maybe I still am, but at a different pace in life. Our bodies are not necessarily meant to be running at the pace that we're going. And we're certainly not meant to be on this earth to just leave one type of legacy, which is, just business. We're here for so much more than that in our lives. And that was really the big eye-opening experience for me to go from that. I wrote a book called Rooted, Not Rushed, which is really that, which is how to be aligned, how to be more rooted in our everyday, not living in our past of what we think we're supposed to be or what we should have done, not what we think that we want for our life, because let's be honest, God's got control of that. We just have free agency to choose in that. And so I really had to really align with what my life was meant to be for Him, not me. As a human, we're not in control. We only have choices to choose in that. And so, it really, I've had to restructure everything to who I am, what I eat, how I get up every day, even my daily habits. I used to have to write them down and restructure and rebuild them, because going from bedbound to starting over, it's almost like learning to walk again at times. I couldn't walk to the front door, and, everything took rewriting. And this time I decided to realign it with how God wanted me to. And that meant a lot of forgiveness, a lot of re-beginning, and a lot of listening to him and being rooted right here, right now.
That's powerful, powerful testimony, some powerful truths, some hard convictions. I definitely experienced some similar things, and I'll tell you about that. But one thing I just thought about. So me and someone were talking about this just yesterday. So my husband hurt his foot in December. He had a wound that, because it didn't hurt, because it didn't hurt, he thought it was fine. Well, it wasn't fine. And then I saw it, thank God. And I was like, well, that's not okay. Like, that requires medical attention. So we go to the ER, and they said, oh, your wound is infected, and it's infected to the bone.
Oh, no.
And so thankfully he has all of his toes and his foot still, but they had to shave a portion of one of his bones, and his foot it's so gross. I can't help but to look at it because it doesn't look real. It looks like someone bit a chunk out of it, honestly. Like, you can see the inside, not to be too graphic, sorry. But I'm saying all that to say he had to go back last week for another graft that they put on it. And I was like, it's not a skin graft. So I asked his doctor, I asked the surgeon, I said, well, what is the graft made from? He said, it's made from placenta. And I was like, oh. And he said, it's not to cover it, because whatever it is, you can't see it when they took the bandage off this week. It was a week from when he had it done. I'm like, where is whatever this thing is? He's like, it's made from placenta, and it's there. He said, women donate their placenta, and it's used to increase, to provide additional nutrients and to help it with the healing. And I was like, wow. And it made me think about how our bodies are temples, and we really, really take that for granted. And it gives us signs when it's not okay, and we ignore it with, I'll think, either I'll do it later, or I'm fine, or I just need a nap, or all of these different, maybe I'll drink more water, all of these different things that we tell ourselves, and our body is trying to, like, hey, I'm not okay. And I remember when I was in corporate one night, up 3:00 in the morning, working on something that definitely could have waited. And I was sitting there, and I started to have pains and dizzy spells and all these things going on. And I was it scared me, but I was also too afraid to tell anybody, because I'm like, nothing's, like, I'm okay. It's fine. I'm okay. It's just whatever is happening right now, but I'm sure it'll be okay. But it finally got to a point where I remember telling my husband, because I'm like, I'm not okay. And I don't know if something happens. I just need you to understand that, what's been going on with me. And I remember still saying all of that, didn't change any habits. And I remember sitting at my desk in pain, still working. But at one point it gotten so bad, like 3:00 in the morning, where I just had to stop. And I was like, Lord, what is going on with my body? And I was so scared that my family was going to wake up and find me dead sitting at my desk. And I was like, something has to change. Not thinking it was me, something else, somebody else's. And it just kept coming. And so I started to fast. And I started the fast because, one, I just felt like I needed to, but also I'm like, I'm not myself, and I don't know what's happening to me. And I'm like, Lord, I just need for you to help me. Like, what is it I'm supposed to do? What is it that I'm obviously out of alignment?
Yeah.
And, like, what is that thing? And so during the fast, for me, is when entrepreneurship came up. And I was the person who was like, I would never, like, some people are meant to be in corporate. That is me all day long. I'm not a risk taker. Like, that is for other people. No thanks. And entrepreneurship. And I'm like, Lord, this is Sharika. Like, remember, we don't do that. And I feel like that's what you're telling me to do. And so
are we having the same conversation?
Right, exactly. And I'm like, can you, like, I need you to remember, you're just supposed to tell me about whatever that thing is I'm supposed to do to help all of this. And it stuck. And I was like, all right, I think he's telling me to leave this. And I gave I gave my job a 90-day notice because I was like, I don't know about this. And I gave them a 90-day notice. But what one of my confirmations came, which it really just clicked. One of the confirmations came when I gave that notice, my symptoms stopped almost immediately.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, so you really are telling me to do this.
Mm.
And I was like, okay. But the problem was when I did start on my entrepreneurial journey, I kept those same bad habits. And so I would be up late at night working through the night, still not getting rest, all of these things. And I honestly think that's where the breast cancer came from because I had to stop. It forced me to stop. It forced me to rest and realign when I came back as like, you can't do this anymore. Like, I tried to tell you the first time, I took you out of that place and you still are doing it. And I really feel like that's why I also say, like, it was God covering that whole journey for me because he allowed me to see him more clearly and really say, like, you have to stop. You
Yeah.
are not doing this on your own. You are not called to do this on your own power. And I even bought a little plaque during that time, and it said, "Give it to God and go to sleep." And I would look at it and laugh and and keep working on not listening. And so I can absolutely understand what you're saying. And it's so sad, though, that it takes us getting to that point to finally say, "Oh, wait, you were talking to me?"
Yeah. I don't think that we pay enough attention to our daily lives and the things
Mm-mm.
that we're rooted in right now. I think that's half the problem is because we're so busy in a culture where everything has to be fast paced. You have to plan, you have to do, you have to constantly go. And there's so many pressures that are around us. Unfortunately, we're not listening to ourselves enough and giving ourselves enough time each day in who we are to really listen and say, is this really where we're supposed to be? Not the rest of the world, but who
Mhm.
we are, who God wants us to be, where we're supposed to be. He didn't make us all the same. He put us in a community to be together, yes, but he didn't make us the same because he wants us to
Mm-mm.
do the same thing. But that's what we're expected to do, it seems like, when society hits. You look at social media, you look at all these other ways. I mean, if our fashion isn't the same, something has to be, right? So, yeah, I think that absolutely. I think that's half the problem is we're not giving ourselves enough time each day to listen to what our body, our minds, the signs, and the things that he gives us in messages each and every day to say, are you paying attention to what I'm trying to tell you?
All right, sis, pause for just a moment because what I'm about to share could be the very thing that shifts everything for you. Let's be real for a minute. Too many women are sitting on the sidelines of their own lives waiting for someday. But you know God is calling you higher. That's why I created a way for you to connect with me one-on-one. Now go sign up at Transform the Gap, that's GAAP.com, and then come back. Because this episode is only getting better, and I want you equipped for the next step. See you soon. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I really hope it's convicting some that are listening and really making you all think about, like, where am I leading out of my own pace, out of my own strength, and not allowing God to lead me and not trusting, because that's what it is. If you're doing all of these things, you're telling God, you know what? I don't trust that you will see me through. I don't trust that you will still make everything happen, that I'll still get whatever it is you've promised me if I don't keep my hands in it. And so a great analogy that someone told me once was, it's just like if you're driving down the street and you're on the passenger side and God is behind the wheel and you keep trying to take the wheel and you're swerving and going all over the road and you're like, hey, keep it in the road. And he's like, keep your hands off of it and I can keep it in the road.
Yeah.
And but that's what we do. We feel like if we aren't involved, if we aren't doing the thing or the things, then it won't happen or I'll never make it. And you're absolutely right about looking at what everyone else does. I just think about some of the conversations I've had with other moms before, and it's almost like it's a contest. It's like, how was your day? Oh, I had to do this, and then I went there, and then I had to go here, and then I had to do that. But I'm here, and then when I get home, I need to get back. And it's like, oh, really? Well, I had to, it is all like you're going
It's a
back and forth.
competition almost.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's like, what do you win? What's the prize?
Yeah, exactly. I'll be honest with you too. I think, for those that are listening who are maybe in corporate or they're in a position working for somebody, that's another area that I talk a lot with my own clients in coaching is that, there was a time where I couldn't work. I couldn't work in the same way, showing up in leadership. And it was like, now what do you do with yourself, Mairin? One of my businesses was failing because I couldn't show up to work. And I knew deep down that life wasn't going the way it was supposed to go and there was more. But I was almost ignoring it because I was ignoring my body. I was ignoring the thoughts I was actually kind of unhappy. I would come home, I would burn out, and then I would go again.
Yeah.
And we think that that's normal. That's cyclical, right? That's something that we're supposed to all do and expect out of life. But in reality, some of the biggest growths that we make are the ones that we're scared of. They're the ones that change our life for so many amazing, powerful things, right?
Yes.
And I mean, I actually haven't shared this with a lot of people, but, I didn't know if I was going to be able to even pay some paychecks at one point. And interestingly enough, and I don't take this lightly. And I think that, I think every situation is going to be different. Your relationship with God, but I really rely a lot on my relationship with him. And I really had to give it up. I had nothing left to do. And I remember looking at my husband and saying, babe, what more could we have done? All we did was just show up to life the way he served it to us. All we did was respond. That's not bad. We just keep moving toward him, with him, for him, and in every day doing the best that we can and just showing up and having gratitude every single day. And you know what's happening? Look at babe. Somehow the money still comes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really scary thought. But if there's more itching at you and you're at a place where you feel like, man, this is not working or life has hit a grid halt, that might be a key indicator that you need to have a conversation with God because he's asking more for you.
Yes.
As scary as that sounds.
Mm-hmm. And it is scary. And even to your point, especially speaking to those in the corporate space or working for someone else, sometimes we are so quick to do everything. And it happens not only in our personal lives, but at work and in our careers as well. And then we do realize, you know what? It's too much. I need to take a step back. But we're so fearful to say no or to say, I have too much already or to get any type of pushback. And it can just be, can someone else help or delegating or whatever it is. But
to
we're
release
so
that control to
fearful.
God.
Exactly. We're so fearful to release that control. And primarily because we've allowed whatever that thing is to become our source. We've allowed ourselves to believe that if we don't do whatever it is or keep, doing, then we won't have. But something amazing that you all realized is it's a resource. The clients, the paychecks, all the bonuses, all of these things, these are resources, but they're given to us by our true source, which is the Lord. And he can always find another resource. We just have to really trust in him and give it to him and say, you know what? I feel like you're calling me to leave this place. I feel like you're calling me to take a step back.
Yeah.
And I trust that you'll make, that you'll keep us, that everything that you'll provide for us, that you'll comfort us, whatever it is that we need, that we'll still have those things. And it is scary. And I'll say, even, speaking from personal experience, through all that has happened, God provided. It may not have looked the way that I thought it was supposed to look. It may not have come in the way that I thought it would come in, but he always provided.
Yeah. Amen.
And so we have to know that and seek him and say, oh, I thought because it wasn't the way that we thought, then he didn't do it. He did it. It's there. But we're putting him within our own minds and our own control, our limited control, our limited mindset, instead of saying, whatever way you'll do it, however you'll have it to happen for me, instead of, oh, well, I know it won't be this. Well, it could have been, but you just talked yourself out of it. So, no, now it's not.
Yeah. Do you ever hear the story of the man who was asking for, he said, there's this big flood and he's at the top of his roof and he's like, no, 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 it's okay. I'll be rescued. I'll be rescued. Mm-hmm. 3 boats come by. And of course, each time he's like, no, God's got me. But after the third, they're like, are you kind of come down? We're trying to rescue. And he's like, well, I've been waiting for God. And he says, well, I've been giving you signs this whole time, 3 times. Same thing. I mean, I think that's exactly where our life is. Like, I think we have these expectations as humans that it's supposed to go a certain way accordingly to our human plan. And it's not. It's so much more. We have to pay attention to what's really happening in that day-to-day life that's being delivered to us.
So it's been almost a month now. Early January, I had an in-person event called Becoming Her, the Wife God Called. And 2 days, going back, my caterer, I'm like, I don't, this is my first in person. I don't know what we should have to eat, but I knew I wanted to serve lunch. And I was like, chicken, grilled chicken, maybe. I don't know. And so I was telling her about like what it was called and the theme and the type of experience I wanted to make sure the women that attended it had. And she's like, okay, how about we go with soup, and we'll do soup and crackers and bread, and we'll do the fruit tray and all of this. So it was this amazing spread. And I was like, soup is great. It's cold. We have some, vegetarian options. Perfect. So 2 days before the event, my caterer ghosted me.
Oh no.
So, and it's much more behind the story, but anyway, she didn't show up, and I was like, okay. So I was like, it's soup though. And I love the idea of soup. Let me see if I can. And I tried to find another option. It was too close to the time to find someone else to step in. And so we ended up going to Sam's, and Sam's has broccoli and cheddar soup. We had 3: broccoli and cheddar soup, chicken and wild rice, and tomato bisque. And we had the soups, and we had the baguettes, and we had the crackers, and we still had all the things. We just had to do it. But it was so much cheaper. Yeah. Everybody enjoyed it. They talked about how the soups were so good. And also over the holidays, my mother-in-law, who comes often, she brought these warmers in that were actually bowls. And she was like, just in case you need them. It's like, why would she bring that out?
Meant to be.
But it was exactly what we needed. We had the soups in there, and like it went perfectly. And afterwards, it was like, it didn't happen the way that I thought it was going to happen, and the way that I wanted it to happen with caterer and, the set. But everything was still beautiful. Everything still worked out. Everyone enjoyed their meals. I think even one of the speakers took home the leftover fish that we had. Like, it all worked out perfectly, but not the way that I thought it would. But one of the things I just had to do, instead of praying like, Lord, please let her come through, let her change, I didn't do any of that. I just said, Lord, you brought me to this. You told me to have this event. I told these ladies, I promised these ladies lunch.
What do I do?
It's on you now. I've done everything that I know, and I know that you'll make it happen. And once that control was released, and it just happened, and I went on my day. Now, granted, I wasn't like, I knew it was going to work out. And I'm like, Lord, I know you won't. Like, I know you're not going to have me, out here looking crazy and promising something and not being able to deliver, especially when I know that this is something like I've come to you for every piece of this event and of this space. And I'm like, you worked it out in other challenges that have come up. So I know you will. And it all just flowed seamlessly. And I was just so amazed and proud and just like, oh my goodness, like you did it again.
Yeah. Surprising us all the time with all the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm even thankful for the conversation for bringing the caterer in because I didn't know what to serve. And it was her idea, even though she wasn't the
Mhm.
one who did it. It was her idea and her, you know, having the conversation with me and giving me the, you could do this and you can do that and all of these things and how it was able to work out. So she was just another tool, another resource that he used to make sure that his plan came together.
Yeah. I love that. You're making me hungry now too.
The soups were great. So, and they were Sam's. Like, I didn't even know they had these things, but we bought some for the house since then.
So for those listening, go
Yes,
get Sam's and get yourself some soup.
yes. And get it with the baguette and cut it up and just perfect. It was amazing.
I love it.
But yeah, it's just, but we have to take him out of our box
Yeah.
and how we say things should happen or how we think they need to happen because he's he's always going to show up. He's never going to leave us. He never forsake. That's what his word says. And but we just have to let him show up the way that he is going to show up. Just like we tell other people, like, let me do it my way. Same thing.
Mhm.
Same
Yeah.
thing. How we're quick to tell, let me do it my way, or I got it. Like, leave me alone. I understand. Same thing that we tell other people. He said, like, I got this. Like, you know, I was here before you. I'm here with you, and I'll be here after you. Like, I know what I might know a little bit about what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
So just trust me.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting how life just kind of shows up the way it is. And I think it's, there's a couple of things that I do when it comes to really realigning in those moments. Well, first rooting every day who I am, what my plan is for the day. And I talk to God every single morning. What's our purpose today? And I ask him that specifically because it's not my purpose anymore. Everything I do. In fact, there's been moments my husband will look at me and say, I don't know who I married in the last couple of years, but I love everything about it right now because she's just showing up as God. Like I can see it in you. And there are things, I used to be stage fright and I'm standing on stages and doing keynotes now, sharing in his message and writing a book, which was something that I always had dreams to do. But in reality, would I have done that myself? No, I'd be too busy hustling in my day to day, thinking that I'm leading doing that, what I'm supposed to be. So it starts with those each day. It's naming one small win that proves that you're moving forward for yourself and for him. And even if it's imperfect, acknowledging those moments, being grateful in those moments every single day. And there are days on those hardest days, especially finding more to be grateful for, because in reality, those are the moments that God is leading you closer to him in his purpose. And if you're listening, then you are finding more of where you're supposed to really be. Those things don't happen unless he wants to get our attention. Going back to what we said, we're not meant to be the same person. We all are given gifts and beautiful souls just meant to be on this earth to touch people's lives in our own authentic individual way. And my way is not going to be yours, Sharika. You do an amazing thing. We both have podcasts, but maybe it's different audiences. Maybe it's just different flavors. No matter what it is, but the reality is we're all touching people, and that's what community is meant for. And that's what God is doing in us every single day. He's connecting us through our own purposes. And if we're paying attention to that, that's what community is.
Yes.
Writing down, I really like to anchor my thoughts of, I am not just my business. I am also, and really identifying through him, what am I? Reminding myself, letting him write that for me, also writing that with him so he can remind me, keeping myself grounded, not just to perform. I think that we think that we have to show up every day. And I think that, when we identify who we are through him, for him, and with him, instead of who we are on this earth, it changes the game entirely, changes the things that we do. It keeps us so we don't have to show up in performance and be like everybody else on social media or all the other things to, influence and in all those ways. And, I think the other one for me, which has been a big, deep one, and I think it's a lot of women right now in life is I think we're all burnt out because we think that we have to show up in certain ways. Each day taking, a couple times a day, I call it my 3x3 method. Taking 3 deep breaths 3 times a day, 1 in the morning, 1 at break, 1 in the evening, when you just have a moment for yourself where you can put your hand on your chest and simply remind yourself that you're here, he's with you, you're enough, he's got you, and you can lead imperfectly, not whole, right where you are.
Yes.
And I think that's the message.
That absolutely is the message. Thank you for that. God has called us to discipleship, not competition. And I'm glad you mentioned about your podcast, because I would love for you to please tell us more about your podcast and where we can find your book, Rooted, Not Rushed.
Absolutely.
Please.
Yeah, Rooted Not Rushed, you can find on Amazon. I'll make sure I give you the link so everybody can check it out. I'm also at MairinMooreCane.com. You're welcome to look up on my website or any of the social handles, Mairin Moore Cane. And as far as the podcast, I'm really excited, actually. It's coming out. It's called the Root, Realign, and Rise podcast. And it's actually coming out next Wednesday. So, which means I need to get you on it as well. We need to talk more there. So, but
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm excited for that one as well. I'm definitely in God's season, sharing in his purpose and in his stories. So
thank you for that. And yes, congratulations on starting your podcast and in your obedience. Another thing I never thought I would be doing. And so quick note, when I first started in entrepreneurship, I used to do these 15-minute snippets, I'll call it, as a means to highlight other business owners. And I would just ask one question: what is it that you know that we should know? And different people would see that and they would say, oh, I really enjoyed your podcast. And I would say, thank you, but I don't have a podcast. And we would go through that. Like, so many people would say that, oh, I saw one of your other episodes. And I was like, episode? Okay.
Those were your messages. You weren't paying attention. You wanted you there.
And then because I wasn't getting it, I had a few that said, well, why isn't it a podcast? And I was like, because that's not, no, like, why would I do that? I kept pushing it off. And one of the things that I've started to do now, I have a weekly business meeting with God where, we talk about, what do you want me to focus on? How do you want me to show up? And in one of those meetings, I said, is there something I'm doing that I'm not supposed to be doing, or something that I should be doing that I'm not? And whatever you tell me, I'll listen, I'll let go of fear, and I'll do whatever the thing is. And that was that. And so it was very shortly after that time, I went to YouTube, and the first video that popped up was a lady that I'd seen some of her things before. But that particular one said, this is how you start your podcast. These are the steps. This is the, and I was like, no. And
God, are you telling me something?
But I was reminded, you said you would do whatever I said without fear and without hesitation. And so that Wednesday, the first episode, that was back in April 25. And so that Wednesday was the first episode, and mine are also weekly on Wednesdays from there. And I'm like, and God has blessed this space. He has blessed this time. And it's just been really, really amazing, because I feel like with each episode, as we speak to others, God speaks to us as well.
Yes.
And so many, many, many blessings. And I am excited for what he has done and is continuing to do for you as you are obedient to him.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I have enjoyed this conversation immensely. Thank you so much.
Yes, me too. And just so you all know, she doesn't look like what she's been through. I will say that Mairin does not look like what she's been through. So
this podcast is going to keep going, everybody. So it's because I'm loving, she's just so sweet. So we'll just keep going. She's like feeding my ego over here.
So
Thank
I
you.
just want you all to know that as well, because sometimes we seem to forget that. And, we don't look like what we've been through. And
Yeah.
Mairin is definitely an example of that.
Mm.
And I definitely thought I was a good 10 years your senior, but we're right there together. But thank you so much for this conversation. It's been enlightening. It's been a reminder, some conviction, because we do sometimes forget and we start easing over into that path again. And so I just really appreciate it, and thank you for your honesty and vulnerability. It was definitely necessary and needed. So
I
I
think we're
appreciate
all in
it.
it together. Thank you.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And as we love to say, because we have the best people, it is not goodbye, but until next time.
Mm.
Thank you. Hey, friend, if this episode stirred something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Make sure you subscribe to She Leads Boldly so you never miss an episode. And let's stay connected. Join our growing community of faith driven powerhouse women where you'll find real talk, encouragement, and tools to fuel your journey. Oh, and I've created something special just for the bold, faith driven women like you, an ebook, When You Know His Name. Discover identity, intimacy, and the power of prayer through the names of God. This ebook is designed to equip and encourage you to lead with clarity, courage, and conviction in every space God assigns you to. Available now on Amazon. And if you're ready for deeper clarity, I would love to personally walk with you. I offer a one-on-one session called Your Path to Purpose and Power, and it's to help you break through the overwhelm and realign with what God is actually calling you to in this season. Whether it's burnout, boundaries, or fresh vision, you don't have to figure it out alone. All links are in the show notes. Oh, and one last thing. I would love to hear from you. What questions are you carrying this season? What topics would serve your walk, your work, your womanhood right now? Send me a message or an email, because this podcast is for you, and I want every episode to speak directly to where you are. Remember, you don't have to choose between your faith, your family, and the calling on your life. God's grace makes room for it all. So until next time, stay anchored in purpose, covered in grace, and always ready to rise. Talk soon, friend.